Two big figures in the middle are Philip Veracruz and Larry Itliong. They were farm workers, but then became leaders in the farm worker movement, came together with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta to form the United Farm Workers. But they already started organizing strikes for their basic rights, to raise wages, around issues of actually being able to have access to restrooms, heat protections, things like that on the job. And then when they came together, approached Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta to join them to actually launch a grape strike in Delano. At that time, they said they weren't ready, but the Filipino Manong said, you know what, this is a time we're gonna go ahead and do it anyways. So they went out, they struck, they were on a picket line, and then they were getting attacked by the owners who had hired armed guys to come and attack the picket lines. The Mexican farm workers saw that and like, we can't let our brothers actually go through this. So they then came together and decided to join the strike.
That's a less visible aspect of that history because most Americans, when they learn in history class, they learn about the strike, they learn that Cesar Chavez, and they don't learn about the Filipino workers who drove that action.
Yes, that's really true, and that's a big shame because it misses a lot of the lessons of what we learn, like how coming together makes us so much more powerful.
That was the hardest I'd ever been hit in my life. Only certain guys can do that. Ron Lyle was one guy who could hit you so hard it didn't hurt.
You got into further trouble, didn't you, while you were in prison?
Well, I got, you know, of course.
What do you mean you got? Don't throw it away like that.
The year is 1975. Muhammad Ali is in the midst of his second career following his exile from America, all the way back to 1966. But now comes a tough cookie with a rugged exterior and a fistful of dynamite. The quick-to-tire but quicker-to-bludgeon monster that is Ron Lyle.
Good left hand, and down goes Williams.
Intimidated the hell out of a lot of them.
A feared warrior who's turned pro at the late age of 28, with some already admirable victories against Oscar Bonavena, Buster Mathis, and Jimmy Ellis.
And in round 8, you shall lead. I'm telling you now before the world, you will leave in the 8th round.
Will the laughing storm that is Muhammad Ali be able to take Ronnie Lyle's heavy punishment and send him twisting and turning his way to the canvas? Or will Lyle finally be able to quiet the man whose voice could never be deprived and get Ali to eat his jibes along with his teeth? Muhammad doesn't quite have the foot speed and conditioning he had way back in the 60s, but in that time, his chin has gone from good to great. Ali was excited, as involved with the public as ever, and exhilarated to put on yet another show for the world after the Ron Lyle fight announcement.
The guy I fight, he's in trouble. He can't win, because I'm going to blow him out of here. This is something that I planned.
Ron Lyle was a slow starter in professional boxing, having few pro fights and even fewer amateur, but for good reason. Dying twice on an operating table, getting stabbed and spending many years in prison after taking part in a rival gang member's meeting with the morgue in self-defense will typically alter your career path. Lyle was a stone-cold yet fully inspired fighter, and he had a lot to prove in the ring if he wanted to get a title shot. And as we can see, he was talented enough to eventually undertake a challenge against the greatest heavyweight of his era. Fight night arrived on May 16, 1975. And while Lyle attempts to instill some terror that men like Sonny Liston and George Foreman had achieved in years past with an ice-cold stare, Ali's giddiness to get his hands flowing freely is more of an effective scare tactic than any mean look could ever hope to be. The two men await the bell's ring, and the fight finally begins.
Now the bell for round 1, the two men in the middle of the ring. I will not try to kill him, Lyle said in our pre-fight talk. Ali covering up. So far, Ali hasn't thrown any punch. Now Ali's corner is yelling, "Stick 'em, champ."
After a better round from Ali in the second, Lyle comes out with a new sense of caution and focus as he works on Ali's slippery footwork and high guard by digging in hooks behind Muhammad's guard and keeping a consistent pace while trying not to tire his infamously inconsistent gas tank.
Can't use the ropes. This is the way to fight Ron Lyle, with movement to chronic slow. is Ali's best round by far of tonight. Sixth round action, quickly. Ali moving again, a little evidence of the
Round
shuffle.
6 has Ali acting on his battle plan. After 5 rounds of letting Lyle have his way in the ring, Muhammad shows some of his signature pizzazz with flashy footwork and snappy jabs. Lyle struggles to keep up with the greatest's frenetic pace, but survives the round.
Lyle got in a good right to Ali's head then. Now this is 8th round action. And this is the round Ali predicted he would do away with Lyle in. Now he's opening up. He's trying to get at Lyle. We're approaching the end.
Following
of
3 rounds of Ali magic, Lyle finally gets his head back in the game throughout the 10th, while managing to busy Ali's nose early on in the fight. Ron has struggled to land anything substantial since, but while his crippling power hasn't been very well paraded in this fight, his heart has, and he's managed to make it ahead on the scorecards going into the second third of 15 rounds.
Live from Caesars Palace, Las Vegas. Cut out of Boys High School in Brooklyn. Hey, he hurt Lyle. Ali got to Lyle. Lyle is in trouble. He hurt him with a left. Lyle went back against the ropes. 11th round action, and Ali in command. He's staggering. This time Lyle is ready to go. Look at that. Muhammad Ali. This is Muhammad Ali from nowhere. The left cut to Lyle. Sent him back against the ropes. Ali in total command. Being separated now. The fight is stopped by referee Bird Hernandez.
Muhammad Ali successfully defended his title yet again against a tough-willed and highly skilled opponent who could see through some of Ali's most incredible tricks.
We're back with the defeated challenger, Ron Lyle. First of all, Ron, it was clear you didn't think the fight should be stopped.
I knew something was going to happen because I was winning every round. He couldn't have won that if he'd have, if it had went 15, he'd have been out of it clean,
Muhammad would make 6 more title defenses following this historic night, with even more memorable hours than this. Tonight, we honor the greatest and wish him well wherever he resides in paradise.
My fellow Americans, it is undeniable that this past election was stolen. To all those members of the armed forces, join with us to defend our liberty and land.
Seated around this room is an incredible diversity of professional experience spanning the last 5 presidential administrations. Most of you have sworn under oath to defend the Constitution. What happens when those in uniform break that oath?
January 6th demonstrated a possible false sense of security.
The next insurrection could involve members of the active duty military turning their weapons around on the folks that they're there to protect. One of the recommendations was to war game what that might look like.
I am President Hotham, Chief Executive of the United States of America.
You have 6 hours to avert a civil war and ensure the peaceful transfer of power. Mr. President, we are going to be starting the game in 3.
We are here to stress test our national security system.
1.
I want them to be prepared for the worst case scenarios.
I have no idea if, at the end of this exercise, this country collapses or comes together.
Where would we like to send a large body of armed crazies?
Capitol.
You are confirming that there are National Guard that have, in fact, let protesters through.
I'm going to flood the zone with fake pictures, guys.
Very difficult to find out what is real and what is.
And there were actual images of that?
It is not compromising the proceedings of the election.
Yeah, it is compromising the proceedings of the election. The entire Congress is still in a bunker.
Because now they're playing the game.
Everybody back to the table.
You can authorize lethal force.
Pause for just a second. Is that correct? You could have federal?
We've done it on the southwest border.
He's going to have to make a decision.
Put your f***ing cards on the table.
The United States could be on the brink of a second civil war.
Well, you've pissed off a lot of senior-ranking folks from all 5 presidential administrations.
It was my job.
Great job.
Yeah.
The Iron Gate, the fourth and final dam in the Klamath Dam removal project, was breached. Salmon will now swim freely in the Klamath River for the first time in over a century, as the largest dam removal project in U.S. history nears completion.
This is a huge moment, not just for the environment and for salmon, but for also the tribes. This accomplishment is the result of relentless and dedicated advocacy by the tribes in the Klamath River to restore it to a healthy state for both salmon and for people.
A national movement to let rivers return to their natural flows, restoring ecosystems for fish and other wildlife.
Everybody agrees that having clean, healthy sources of water for the environment and for people is a priority to everyone. And these dams created algal blooms, they depleted oxygen, they raised temperatures, and all of these things came together to create a fairly routine public health crisis year after year.
The removal of the Klamath River Dam is described as a historical moment, a significant achievement for the environment, salmon, and local tribes.
I'm relieved that we're removing a source of risk to this community and at the same time accomplishing something that's really going to restore the health of the watershed.
In Siskiyou County, Rudy Aguado, the North States News.
This New York roller derby team is taking on a ban against trans women in sports. The Long Island Roller Rebels have skated with transgender and gender nonconforming people for nearly 2 decades.
Our policy is explicit in that we are an inclusive space.
This is Amanda Urena, the vice president of the Rebels, whose derby name is Curly Fry.
We allow cisgender women, transgender women, and non-binary expansive, gender expansive people to be in our space, play in our league, as long as they get up to a certain level of skating.
The boisterous contact sport has long been a safe haven for some LGBTQ+ people, with inclusion and safety always emphasized. But an executive order issued by Nassau County now requires the team to expel any members who were not assigned female at birth if they want to book county facilities.
It's a violation on everything we stand for.
This is Roller Rebels coach Kat Carroll.
We want people to feel safe here, and they're screaming, no, they're not allowed to feel safe, and that's unacceptable.
The team, represented by the New York Civil Liberties Union, is fighting back with a lawsuit. Gabriela Larios is a staff attorney with the NYCLU.
Just want to play with their teammates, and now they are subject to the sweeping requirement that in order to use county facilities, they have to police the gender identity of their peers. And that's simply unacceptable and in violation of New York State's anti-discrimination laws.
Republican politicians in at least 23 U.S. states have advanced scores of laws and rules in recent years blocking transgender athletes from female teams. It's part of a broader legislative effort targeting healthcare for transgender people and their access to public spaces. But such orders are rare in New York. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman says it's needed to protect cisgender women and girls.
They can compete in a co-ed league. They can compete in a transgender league if they choose to form one.
The legality of the order is now being weighed by at least 2 courts. Days after it was issued, New York Attorney General Letitia James wrote to demand he rescind it or face legal consequences, calling it transphobic and blatantly illegal. In 2020, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that discrimination on the basis of sexuality or gender amounts to illegal sex discrimination under the Civil Rights Act. Blakeman has since sued James in the federal district court on Long Island. The lawsuit contends that transgender people are not a protected class under federal law. As the legal battles play out, Roller Rebel players emphasize that trans women are not automatically the best players on the rink, skilled as some are. And all teams in the league subscribe to the same eligibility rules laid out by the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, the sport's international governing body, which allows, quote, all transgender women, intersex women, and gender-expansive participants to join derby teams.
It's gross. It's not something that we would like to participate in. We don't want to police our other players' bodies. Like, that's just not for us to do.
lot in life is to intercede for Louisiana. Swallow all the spit, slime, vomit, and despair that comes to us on barges down the long spine of Mother River. We must pray ceaseless, silent prayers, lifting up our suffering in a chalice of baked Mississippi mud. We brush our teeth with dead oil and flush our guts with sulfur dioxide that we might be a worthy sacrifice.
Growing up in St. James, you had everything. You had your foods and you had gardens. You walk outside, take a deep breath of the clean air, and you wouldn't get sick. You can't do that today. You might take a deep breath of chemicals. When the first plant came, everybody was excited. My daddy would talk about it, and he said, we're going to have jobs, and they were glad for jobs. But they didn't know the other side of industry coming in here.
Every one of my siblings, children, had bronchitis, eczema, upper respiratory infections, and asthma. All of our children did. That's not normal.
I first heard the term Cancer Alley when I went to college. I thought, oh my God, this makes so much sense, and it completely defines what we've been dealing with in this area for quite some time. Cancer Alley is, by definition, the long stretch between Baton Rouge and New Orleans that is filled with fossil fuel and petrochemical industry. If you just look at a map where the plantations once existed, or is now majority Black and brown population along that same line, it's also the similar map of the petrochemical industries and the build out.
I began researching Cancer Alley in late 2018. We looked across Louisiana and we found that where you have more pollution, you have more cancer. The question is, are people who are exposed to cancer-causing pollution developing cancer at higher rates in those communities? And absolutely the data support that, yes, in Louisiana, places where you have more industrial pollution, you have higher cancer rates.
There's no place like home. I was born and raised here, and this is where I want to stay. The industry will have to go, not us. And we will not be a sacrifice for the industry. 2023, we went to court, and we joined with Inclusive Louisiana, and we suing St. James Parish Council for a moratorium.
We stand here today to say we will not be ignored. Yes. You will not sacrifice our lives. Yes. And we will not take any more industries in the 4th or 5th district in St. James. Yes.
I definitely don't want to see any more new industry to come in. We have enough.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Shmel Levine. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Reuters.
I know that somebody has to be the voice for the people. And why not us? Why not me? My grandfather was a civil rights leader here in St. James, and it's in my blood.
I'm really, really, with all my heart, hoping that we can stop any new industry from coming, unless it's green. That is a battle that we're going to fight to the end power. But they need to regulate.
I would like to see the end of fossil fuel if that's going to make me live a longer life, breathe clean air, drink clean water. Yes, they could shut it down.
Hey, hey, ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Fossil fuels have got to go!
Hi, my name is Satyajit.
And my name is Ajinkya.
And we are the co-founding farmers of Two Brothers Organic Farms. Initially, we did whatever society expected us to do. Having grown up in a farmer's family in our village, we took education in a city. After education, we did a job in a city. But there was some kind of vacuum. There was some kind of space that was not being filled by what we were doing. And this urge led us to think about what we would love to do. And we thought and arrived at farming being our area of interest and passion, and decided to leave our job in the city and come back to the village and do farming. When we came into the farming landscape and the village, people were commenting that, what new are they going to do? They won't be successful in it. They will not make money. They'll sell their land and go back to the cities. All these comments started coming. But somehow we, drowned those and kept true to our hearts and pursued farming.
In conventional farming, the objective is to increase production, and it's also on the choice of your crop to take more commercial crops. When we started, even we went along with the conventional farming. We thought, taking a more commercial crop was a solution. But a couple of years into doing farming, we understood that the crop was not the solution, or increasing productivity was not the solution. And over a long period of time, what made sense was fertile soils. If your soil is fertile, automatically whatever crop grows on it is bound to be of a good quality. And hence, our journey with organic farming started by course correction from conventional farming to natural organic ways of farming. So I would say there were 4 pillars that we learned of farming and course corrected ourselves. First was using the indigenous cows, cow dung, cow urine, a lot of mulching, a lot of intercropping, and the most important one was using traditional heirloom variety of seeds. So whatever we growing is of an indigenous seed variety. If it is wheat, we are growing emmer or khapli wheat. If it is lemons, we are growing the Kagzi limbo variety. If it is groundnuts, we are growing the Gungru Shengdana. So not growing anything that is modern variety, hybrid variety, and moving the seeds to the old traditional heirloom variety. So these 4 practices kind of sum what we do at the farms.
Food that makes us up, that food that nourishes us from inside. Consumers do not know anything about the food that makes them and the food that they consume. Farmers do not know their consumer, and they're not really conscious about practicing the right kind of farming because no one values it at the front end. So Two Brothers is that platform which is empowering both these stakeholders and I would say creating a more sustainable world. So as a matter of fact, we realize that it's not only about growing the business or selling food, it's about creating a conscious and a sustainable society wherever you go, and everything is connected in this world. So very conscious of our footprint in every aspect, and helping develop communities across stages of society.
Everybody's looking for a hero. I am not a hero. That was a part. I played the part. I'm not that man.
Hands down, he was Superman from day one.
I realized that if I could pull off this part, it would change my life.
John Houseman said, Mr. Reeve, it is very important to become a serious classical actor. Unless, of course, they offer you a load of money to do something else.
He convinced me when I first met him that he would fly.
Doing things with my dad, it was all about activity and action. Riding bikes, playing soccer, skiing.
Carpe diem, Al!
My dad was very competitive, and he didn't necessarily slow down.
We said goodbye, and he gave this wave. That was the last time I saw him on his feet.
Mr. Reeve currently has no movement or spontaneous respiration.
Superman, crazy. Just that simple little thing over the horse.
I'd ruined my life and everybody else's. I won't be able to ski, sail, throw a ball to Will. Won't be able to make love to Dana. Maybe we should let me go.
She came flying in, and she just yelled, "I love you. I love you."
And then she said the words that saved my life. You're still you, and I love you.
He and Robin were such good friends because they could match each other.
Robin also had struggles that he dealt with his whole life, and I think that they both were aware of darkness.
Brother Chris is fighting like crazy. When you find people who fight like that but still keep their humanity, that gives you great hope.
That is tough because I can feel him, but he can't feel me.
It must have been hell for my mom, too, knowing what she had lost.
I felt I needed to do something, not just for myself, but for everyone else in the same condition.
The fact that Superman was in a wheelchair and was willing to go public with it was huge.
Help is on the way.
The Christopher and Dana Reeve Paralysis Act.
People are literally walking because of him.
What is a hero? My answer was that a hero is someone who commits a courageous action without considering the consequences. Now my definition is completely different. I think a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. I wouldn't have missed this for the world.
Fare evasion is costing the MTA hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But tonight we have a shocking number for you.
That's right. The transit agency estimating nearly half of bus riders do not pay the fare and end up riding for free. Fox 5's Richard Giacobas takes a closer look.
Riders boarding the crosstown bus on the Upper West Side swipe their Metro cards or phones to pay the $2.90 fare tonight. But for Enos, who rides this bus back and forth every day, this is an out of the ordinary sight.
I've even seen people board the front of the bus and just walk right by the driver, and what can he do? He's not going to start a fight with somebody, but mostly, of course, the back of the bus.
Enos is talking about fare evaders. According to the MTA, nearly half of its 2 million bus riders aren't paying the fare, a dramatic increase from just before the COVID-19 pandemic, when around 20% didn't pay up. MTA President Janno Lieber blames old habits that developed during the pandemic, when bus fares were effectively eliminated for months. There was no more boarding through the bus's front door to protect drivers from the virus. Now Lieber says riders have to pay.
I'm very comfortable saying we all have to share this burden because the system needs to be there for all of us. It won't be fair to the people who are most dependent on transit if the system has to reduce service or...
I think just random checks by the police.
John Jay professor and retired NYPD detective Mike Alcazar says the solution may be more police on the buses, like the MTA has done in the city's subway stations.
We can't afford to have police officers on every bus, but we can randomly have them take the bus. That enough might be a deterrent.
The MTA president saying this week that adding police on the buses like they have on the subway just won't work. There are more than 5,800 individual buses making thousands of stops across the city every day. So what's the solution? Lieber says the MTA is devising a strategy. He just hasn't said what it is yet.
The whole city has become totally lawless. I mean, I feel like I'm living in a third world country, and I used to live in third world countries.
The bus is crowded. You can't get on. People go out the back door. That's what happens.
On the Upper West Side, Richard Giacobas, Fox 5 News.
Being able to participate in things like this has been extremely helpful to my recovery the entire time. I mean, you join the Army because you're a competitive person, because you want to better yourself, better those around you, better your country. And being able to have this outlet again has been incredible for me. I was diagnosed with cancer last year, and so a lot of that time while I was going through treatment and recovering, I had to spend a lot of time alone and not doing the same things that I could before. But then when I started to be introduced to adaptive sports, ARCP, my OTPT team helped me a lot because I was able to be competitive, to be creative, and to try new things.
So adaptive sports for me, the things that I started to realize about it was an outlet, and it changed different parts of me. You know, I was very closed off, like I said, very angry, and it started making me have to work as a teammate again.
In me that, like I said, purpose, motivation, and direction towards something else. I really lost a lot of my identity not being able to serve and having that taken away so soon, as opposed to coming to Warrior Games and being like, hey, like, there's actually a lot more that you can do.
I've always been fit when going through my service, and I had a stroke 4 years ago that left me completely paralysed down my right-hand side. So coming back from rehab, she always pushed me to sort of do something more than just, live in my own bubble, essentially. So.
Having this atmosphere with other branches that I don't know, but understanding that they are all here for their own separate reasons, and they're overcoming their own traumas, background, history, feels safe.
When I got exposed to the community, I knew that was my calling. I always prayed to be a part of a community. So when I got injured and introduced to this community, it's like the pieces of the puzzle all came together. I knew that this was my calling.